Welcome to Legacy Coins USA, your trusted destination for authentic American coin history and collector insight. Here, we uncover the true stories, hidden details, and real values behind US coins, from everyday finds to historic treasures. Stay with us to the end, because one small detail could change how you see a coin forever. Subscribe to Legacy Coins USA and become part of a community that values history, knowledge, and the legacy behind every coin. Let's get started. The coin you are describing is a 1953 Lincoln Wheat cent from the United States, a classic and historically significant small denomination coin that represents mid-20th century American coinage, produced during the post-World War II era when the U.S. economy was stabilizing and expanding. This penny features Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, a design first introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, making it the first regular-issue U.S. coin to feature a real historical person rather than a symbolic figure. The inscriptions "In God We Trust" appear above Lincoln's head, "Liberty" is to the left, and the date, 1953, appears to the right, while a mint mark, if present, would be located just below the date. Your description suggests no mint mark, meaning it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which produced the majority of pennies that year. On the reverse, the coin displays the famous wheat ears design, created by Victor David Brenner, with two stylized wheat stalks framing the words "1 cent" and "United States of America," along with the Latin motto "E Pluribus Unum" at the top, meaning "out of many, one," symbolizing the unity of the states. This reverse design was used from 1909 until 1958, after which it was replaced by the Lincoln Memorial Reverse in 1959, making wheat pennies especially popular among collectors today. The wheat cent era reflects a time when American coinage emphasized agricultural strength and national unity, themes that resonated strongly during the early and mid-20th century. The 1953 wheat penny was struck in large quantities, with over 256 million coins produced at the Philadelphia Mint alone, along with additional millions from the Denver and San Francisco mints, making it a common-date coin rather than a rare one. The composition of the coin is 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, giving it a rich reddish-brown color when new, though most surviving examples today range from brown to dark brown due to oxidation and circulation wear. At the time, copper was still affordable for coinage, unlike later decades when rising metal prices forced changes in composition. In terms of condition, you mentioned that the coin is in bad circulation, which significantly affects its value. Heavy wear typically results in flattened details on Lincoln's hair and coat, weak or missing wheat lines on the reverse, and overall smoothing of the surfaces. In such condition, the coin would be classified as good G or very good VG on the numismatic grading scale, meaning it has seen extensive use in everyday transactions. While this level of wear removes most premium collector value, it does not eliminate historical or sentimental interest, especially for beginner collectors or those assembling a complete wheat cent date set. From a monetary standpoint, a heavily circulated 1953 Philadelphia wheat penny generally has a modest value, usually ranging from about 3 to 10 cents, depending on demand and the exact level of wear. Its value is driven more by its copper content and its status as a wheat penny than by rarity. Even in poor condition, many collectors enjoy keeping these coins as tangible pieces of American history, and they are often saved rather than spent despite their low market price. In contrast, uncirculated or red-colored examples can sell for several dollars, and certified high-grade specimens can bring higher prices, but these are far removed from heavily worn coins. Collectors are often interested in wheat pennies like the 1953 not only for individual value, but for their role in larger collections, such as date and mintmark sets or educational collections that demonstrate changes in design, composition, and historical context. Even common dates help tell the story of U.S. coinage evolution, and many collectors remember finding wheat pennies in circulation decades ago, which adds nostalgic appeal. The affordability of common wheat cents makes them an accessible entry point into coin collecting for people of all ages. There are also minor varieties and errors associated with some 1953 pennies, such as small die cracks, repunched mint marks on Denver or San Francisco issues, or slight doubling, though these are relatively uncommon and typically require close inspection or magnification to identify. In heavily circulated condition, such errors are often worn away or difficult to verify, so they usually do not add value unless clearly visible and authenticated. Nonetheless, the possibility of varieties adds another layer of interest for collectors who enjoy detailed examination of coins. Overall, your 1953 Lincoln Wheat penny, even in poor circulated condition, remains a meaningful historical artifact that connects directly to everyday American life in the early 1950s, a time of economic growth, Cold War tension, and cultural change. While it may not be financially valuable, it holds educational, historical, and nostalgic value, making it worth keeping as part of a collection or as a reminder of an era when copper pennies passed through millions of hands in daily commerce, quietly recording the passage of time in metal form. Keep a close eye on your change because that hidden treasure might be sitting right in your pocket. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a big find. Stay tuned because in the next video, we're diving into another legendary coin that could be worth a small fortune. Next up, the 1945 Lincoln Wheat cent is a historically important United States 1-cent coin struck at the very end of World War II, a moment when the nation was transitioning from wartime production to peacetime recovery, making this penny a quiet witness to a major turning point in global history. Like all Lincoln cents, it features President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, a design introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of his birth, symbolizing unity, freedom, and perseverance, values especially meaningful in 1945 as the war concluded. The obverse bears the inscriptions "In God We Trust" at the top, "Liberty" to the left, and the date, 1945, to the right, with the mint mark, if present, located just below the date. No mint mark indicates the Philadelphia Mint, while D and S represent Denver and San Francisco respectively. The reverse of the coin displays the iconic wheat ears design, created by Victor David Brenner, showing two wheat stalks framing 1 cent and United States of America, with EPLUBUSUNUM above, reinforcing themes of national unity and agricultural strength. This design was used from 1909 to 1958 and is deeply associated with early and mid-20th century America, making wheat pennies especially popular among collectors today. In 1945, this reverse design resonated strongly, as wheat symbolized stability and sustenance after years of rationing and hardship during the war. The 1945 wheat penny was produced in very large quantities, reflecting the high demand for circulating coinage at the time. Approximately 1.04 billion was struck across all three mints, with Philadelphia producing the largest share, Denver and San Francisco also contributing hundreds of millions. This massive mintage makes the 1945 penny a common date coin, meaning it is not rare, but its historical timing gives it added interest. The coin is composed of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, as copper was restored to pennies in 1944 after the unusual steel cents of 1943, which had been made to conserve copper for wartime use. If your 1945 wheat penny is in bad circulation condition, it likely shows heavy wear, including flattened details on Lincoln's hair and facial features, weak lettering, and smooth or partially worn wheat stalks on the reverse. Such a coin would generally grade as good G or very good VG, meaning it's circulated extensively in everyday commerce. While this level of wear significantly limits collector-grade value, it confirms that the coin was actively used during a historically rich period, possibly passing through hands during the final months of World War II or the immediate post-war era. In terms of monetary value, a heavily circulated 1945 wheat penny typically sells for about 3 to 10 cents, depending on exact condition and current copper prices. Its value is mostly tied to its copper content and its status as a wheat cent rather than scarcity. Coins with a D or S mint mark in similar worn condition usually fall into the same price range. In contrast, uncirculated examples or coins with strong red copper color can be worth several dollars, and top-grade certified specimens can command higher prices, though these are far less common. Collectors appreciate 1945 wheat pennies not because they are rare, but because they are historically symbolic and easy to include in complete date and mint mark sets. Many collectors focus on assembling full wheat cent collections from 1909 to 1958, and the 1945 issue is an essential piece of that timeline. Even worn examples are commonly kept for educational purposes, beginner collections, or personal nostalgia, especially among people who enjoy coins connected to major historical events. There are also minor collectible varieties associated with some 1945 pennies, including repunched mint marks, die cracks, and minor double dies, particularly on Denver and San Francisco issues. However, in heavily circulated condition, these details are often worn down and difficult to authenticate, meaning they usually do not add extra value unless clearly visible and verified. Still, the possibility of varieties encourages collectors to examine, even commendate, wheat pennies carefully. Overall, a 1945 Lincoln wheat penny in poor circulated condition may not be financially valuable, but it carries strong historical, cultural, and educational significance. It represents the return to normal American life after years of global conflict and stands as a small but powerful artifact of a defining moment in history. For collectors, history enthusiasts, or anyone who values tangible connections to the past, this coin is worth keeping as a meaningful reminder of the era in which it was minted. Next up, the 1956 Lincoln wheat penny comes from a period of strong economic growth and cultural change in the United States, often associated with the height of the post-war boom, suburban expansion, and the early Cold War era, making this coin a product of optimism and industrial stability rather than wartime necessity. By 1956, the penny was a firmly established everyday coin used constantly in commerce, and millions of Americans handled these copper cents daily for newspapers, candy, public transport, and basic goods. Although it may appear ordinary at first glance, the 1956 wheat penny represents the closing years of the wheat cent series, as the design would be replaced just 3 years later in 1959 with the Lincoln Memorial Reverse. The obverse of the coin features Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner, whose initials VDB appear subtly on the shoulder truncation. The inscriptions "In God We Trust" arc across the top, Liberty appears to the left, and the date, 1956, sits to the right, with a mint mark below the date if the coin was struck in Denver, D. Philadelphia minted coins carry no mint mark. By the 1950s, Lincoln's portrait had become one of the most recognizable images in American coinage, symbolizing honesty, unity, and democratic ideals during a tense global political climate dominated by the rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union. The reverse retains the classic wheat ears design, showing 2 wheat stalks framing the central text, 1 cent, and United States of America, with EPLUBUSUNUM above. This design emphasized agricultural roots and national unity, values that still resonated in the 1950s despite increasing industrialization. The wheat cent reverse is especially cherished by collectors because it represents an era before modern coin aesthetics, when symbolism was simple, bold, and deeply connected to the nation's identity and economy. In terms of production, the 1956 wheat penny was minted in very large numbers, with over 420 million coins struck at the Philadelphia Mint and more than 1 billion at the Denver Mint combined, making it a common date coin. The coin's composition is 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, giving it intrinsic metal value and a warm color that darkens over time. Because copper prices fluctuate, even heavily worn examples are often saved rather than discarded, as their metal content alone exceeds face value. If your 1956 wheat penny is in bad circulation condition, it likely shows heavy wear, smooth surfaces, faded lettering, and weak or nearly flat wheat lines on the reverse. Such a coin would typically grade as good G or very good VG, meaning it spent many years actively circulating. While this level of wear significantly reduces collector-grade value, it confirms that the coin played a real role in everyday American life during the 1950s and possibly into the early 1960s. From a value perspective, a heavily circulated 1956 wheat penny usually sells for around 3 to 10 cents, depending on condition and market demand. Coins with a D mint mark generally fall into the same value range when worn. Uncirculated examples, especially those with strong red copper color, can be worth a few dollars, while certified high-grade specimens may sell for higher prices, though these are far less common and typically preserved from the moment of minting. Collectors often include the 1956 wheat penny in date and mint mark sets, type collections, and educational displays that illustrate the transition from older to modern U.S. coin designs. Because it comes so close to the end of the wheat cent era, it holds special interest as one of the final representatives of a long-running design that spanned nearly 50 years. Even common, worn examples are popular among beginner collectors because they are affordable, historically meaningful, and easy to recognize. Overall, the 1956 Lincoln wheat penny in poor circulated condition may not be rare or highly valuable, but it remains a tangible piece of American history from a time of growth, confidence, and global influence. Its value lies less in money and more in the story it tells, of everyday transactions, copper coinage, and a design that quietly served the nation for decades before giving way to a new era of U.S. coins. Subscribe for more coin history, values, and rare details hidden in everyday money. Subscribe and stay connected to the stories behind every coin you collect.